Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. Another really fun one for me. I'm going to be going over a set of players that I'd be looking to sell high on or sort of look to move off of going forward here. These are guys that I think either are just not set up for a whole lot of success over the next several weeks. So if you're in a position where you're 4-5, 3-6, you got to find a way to sort of win a lot of games over the next several weeks to get yourself into the playoffs. Those are players that aren't necessarily going to be very helpful for you. And then second half, the players I'm going to go through here are going to be guys that are just really not set up for a whole lot of success in the fantasy playoffs. We're at the point in the year where we have enough information that we can really start looking at these schedules and getting a good understanding of what to expect from each of these players and just using that information to sort of sculpt our rosters the best we can based off of where we're standing right now is going to be really useful. So, as always, if there's any specific trade questions, just let me know in the comments. I really do love seeing what you guys have working there, and I hope that you guys find this useful. I use this advice all the time. I'm that guy in every league who's trying to make a trade every single day, so I definitely act on all this, and I like to think it definitely helps me in the long run. So let's get into it, guys. So starting things off with the sell high candidate for me, I think Travis Etienne is a guy that I would be looking to move off of just a little bit. He hasn't exactly been dominant over the last several weeks. It's been a little bit since we've seen him really go out there and just do a whole lot from a fantasy standpoint. And just overall, it seems like Jacksonville just seems to be trending in the wrong direction on offense. You've got really all three of their best pass catchers to start the year, Brian Thomas, Travis Hunter, and Brenton Strange, all banged up right now. Hunter not going to be back for several weeks. BTJ didn't practice today on Thursday, so we might be without him this week. I know they added Jacoby Myers. He didn't necessarily have a huge impact there in Las Vegas. I'm not expecting him to go out here and just fix this Jacksonville offense. So you're looking at a situation here where you've got a pretty mediocre offense with 4 straight matchups coming up here for the Panthers or for the Jaguars that just aren't very favorable. Really tough matchup this week against the Texans. You also face Denver in Week 16, so even if you manage to get into the fantasy playoffs, Denver's not a team that you're excited to face once you get there. And there's even more reason to be upset. Like you have Bashal Tutin come in and steal goal line work and short yardage work, so that's going to reduce some of the upside. The only real saving grace is maybe he just catches enough passes to be useful, but I don't see any real ceiling games coming here in the near future. You're not really going to have that touchdown floor with Tutin just sort of siphoning work there, and I think a lot of people are really desperate for running back at this point in the year. There are people looking at guys like Amari DiMercado to start in the lineups this week, so if you can afford to lose Travis Etienne, I think you can get a lot of value for him right now. He's definitely a guy that, if he's a luxury piece for your roster, he's the kind of guy that I would look to sell high on and just get somebody that's really going to make a difference for you over the next several weeks and can maybe help make you that just one step better so you can get into the playoffs here. This one is hard, but I think Michael Pittman is actually a pretty savvy sell high candidate. He's obviously been fantastic. He's a wide receiver 1 of the season. We know he's a really talented player, and I think people just sort of forgot that. I mean, I'm sort of guilty of that as well. I wasn't very high on him coming into the season. Granted, I didn't expect that the Colts were going to go out there and be as dominant as they have been, but I just don't know how useful Michael Pittman's going to be over the next 5 weeks, which are really crucial if you're 4-5, 3-6, even 5-4. Like you probably need to win at least 3, 4, or 5 games over the next 5 weeks if that's the case. And Pittman's not going to be a guy that's going to really help you do that. They still have their bye coming up in Week 11. You get Kansas City and Houston in Weeks 12 and 13. So for 3 straight weeks, you've got just horrendous setups there with Pittman where you don't have him. Then you have 2 of the best defenses in the NFL against him. You get Atlanta in an international game this week. That's not very exciting. We always see those be sort of clunkers. And then Jacksonville has been a pretty decent defense so far this season. So there's really nothing to be excited about on the schedule there. You also get Seattle, who's been phenomenal on defense, then San Francisco and Jacksonville in the playoffs. So even if you do get there with Pittman, none of those matchups are like blow-up matchups where you're expecting fantastic games out of Pittman. I think if you need to win at least 3 games over the next 5, just to find yourself in the playoffs, Pittman's not really going to help you do that. If you're 7-2, 8-1, 6-3, even, I think it's okay. Just hold him because he should be okay for the playoffs. But if you really do need to get just sort of put your foot on the gas and get some wins here, I don't think Pittman's the guy for that. So he's a guy I would at least consider seeing what you can get for. And just to throw a quarterback onto this list, I think Dak Prescott is a pretty reasonable sell candidate. I know it hasn't been fantastic for him the last several weeks, but I just don't really view him as anything more than a streaming option at this point. In general, I'm just a little bit worried about what we're going to get out of this Dallas offense going forward. Back-to-back weeks, they've played just respectable defenses in Denver and then I'm blanking on it. And then the Cardinals. And those are 2 straight games where the Cowboys really didn't put up a whole lot of points. They haven't looked competitive in either of those games. They're on bye this week, and then after that, you get 3 straight matchups that aren't exciting. You get the Raiders the first week off the bye. That's not horrible. But then you get the Eagles and the Chiefs, 2 matchups that sort of scare you. They have the fifth worst quarterback strength of schedule over the next 5 weeks. So again, Dak's just a guy that I don't really see bringing us a whole lot of fantasy production over the next 5 weeks, and he's a guy that a lot of people have been leaning on all season long. Again, I've got him in a league. I'm 5-4 in that league. I don't feel fantastic about it. I've got Caleb too. I'm going to be writing Caleb more than that. But if someone really needs a quarterback, Dak's definitely a guy that I'd be looking to move off of and see if I can just get like a really reliable starter for, because I don't know that Dak counts as a reliable starter even at the quarterback position the rest of the way here. Next up, these three players we're going to go through are going to be players that I'd be looking to move off of if you feel really good about your playoff odds. These are players that I think are going to be fine over the next 5 weeks, but when we get into the playoffs, they're not guys that I think are going to be super useful for us. And I'll start off with the Bears running backs. So you're selling high on both these guys, DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. They've both been fantastic lately. Monangai went out there and had the game of his career so far. Obviously, he's a rookie, but just phenomenal production out of him. DeAndre Swift's been amazing since their bye, and a big part of that's just been their schedule over the last several weeks. They've played incredibly just horrendous defenses over the last several weeks. The Bengals are a fantastic matchup. You had the Ravens, you had the Commanders. Like, nobody out there has really been good enough to stop the run that we really can confidently say that the Bears have improved dramatically in the run game. It's just been a really great setup of matchups here. They do have one more awesome matchup as well. This week they play the Giants, so I think they'll probably go out there and be really useful. The Giants, again, the worst run defense in the NFL in terms of yards per carry. They should be in line for good production this week, but the real concern is that weeks 14 through 16, so the last week of the regular season and the first 2 weeks of the playoffs, are horrendous. You get Green Bay in weeks 14 and 16, and then Cleveland in week 15. So that's 3 straight weeks where I'm not really going to feel confident in the entire Bears offense in general, but especially against the run. Those are two defenses that are just absolutely phenomenal at shutting down opposing running backs. And these guys aren't superstars like your Bijans, your Jonathan Taylors, your Christian McCaffreys. They're not that caliber of player where I can be confident they're going to overcome the matchup. So, I mean, especially as it gets more and more clear that they're going to be splitting time, Monangai having that monster performance last week just makes things even muddier here in this backfield. Swift's been too good. They're not just going to completely go away from him, but they're also not just going to ignore how great Monangai was. So it's just going to be a messy 50-50 split and an offense that's probably going to struggle for the 3 most important weeks of our seasons. I think it's time to capitalize on value if you're set for the playoffs with these guys. Last week I traded DeAndre Swift and Rondé Gadsden for Derrick Henry in the league. I think if you can pull off that sort of trade, it's definitely a really savvy move. That's the kind of thing I'd be looking to do, is just package one of these guys with someone else and sort of tier up at the position. This one might be surprising, but I think Rashee Rice is actually a decent sell high candidate here. Again, I know it seems crazy. Rice has been phenomenal. He's been a top 5 wide receiver since he's returned, but if you look at the Chiefs' schedule from week 14 on, it is really not something to be optimistic about. They have the worst strength of schedule for wide receivers the entire rest of the season. You get Houston, the Chargers, Tennessee, and Denver over the last 4 weeks. Houston and Denver, arguably the 2 best defenses in the NFL. The Chargers, pretty good in their own right. And then the Titans, they're horrendous, but the Chiefs are going to win that game so easily that the Rashee Rice and the entire Chiefs passing game is just not going to have to do very much. You would need Rashee Rice to blow up in the first half for that to pay off. So I just don't see any of those games being super high scoring. It just doesn't make me very optimistic. I'm not saying Rashee Rice is going to be bad over those 4 weeks. They manufacture enough touches for him. He'll be okay. But I view him as more of like a high-end to mid-tier wide receiver 2 over those 4 weeks. And I think you could still get top 5 wide receiver value for him. So, I would happily trade him straight up for Justin Jefferson, who's got a fantastic playoff schedule and a fantastic schedule the rest of the way. I think you could easily get that trade done as well. So that's the kind of trade I'd be looking to do. The schedule just scares me too much, and Rashee Rice is a guy that you're banking on to be a top-tier producer for you, and if he ends up being a middle-tier wide receiver too, that could easily be the reason why you're not winning your championship this season. So just keep an eye on it. You don't have to trade him, of course, but the schedule is really off-putting. He's going to need to overcome some stuff to really be an elite fantasy producer for us over those weeks. And the last guy I'm going to talk about here is another crazy one. It's Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the worst strength of schedule for tight ends during the playoffs. He gets Denver in week 14, and then he has Philadelphia, Houston, and the Giants. Philadelphia and Houston, really horrendous matchups for tight ends. The Giants, not so bad. He should be able to dominate in that one, but I don't really think you're going to make the fantasy championship with Bowers over those 3 weeks. He's coming off a career game. I'm recording this Thursday night. He's been okay so far on Thursday Night Football, but he's in a position here where he's probably going to be the tight end 1 or 2 the rest of the way. He's clearly tops of the NFL in usage. He's a phenomenal player. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I think there's a chance that we see a quarterback change at some point here. Geno Smith has been horrendous so far this season. I don't like Pete Carroll's not going to get fired mid-season, but there is some instability here in this Las Vegas offense. I think if you can just capitalize, like the schedule scares me a lot. They're going to really be able to hone in on him with the trade of Jacoby Myers. Like Tyler Lockett's getting meaningful snaps now. This is a team that's going to have to just try and run the ball. And they'll do what they can to get the ball to Bowers, but it's going to be really easy just for defenses to hone in on him because there aren't really any other players in the passing game that really threaten you. So I just think Bowers, he's probably the tight end too in my mind the rest of the way. I like Trey McBride just a little bit more, but I think if you can capitalize on that high end value, if you can go get, like if you could trade Bowers, say you need a running back, and you could trade Bowers for Derrick Henry and Oronde Gadsden to a team. I would do that in a heartbeat because I think you're getting an elite running back and then you're still getting a tight end that I don't think is going to be a whole lot worse. So that's the kind of trade I'd be looking to do. Again, you don't have to trade Bowers by any means, but I do think there's a path towards him to be a little bit underwhelming when we get to the playoffs. And if you can get somebody who's going to be a little bit better for you there, get an elite player at a different position, still just sort of trade down, but just a little bit at tight end, I think that's something at least worth considering here. So that'll do it for players that I'd be looking to sell ahead of Week 10 here. Up next, I'll get into the second half of the starts and sits. You guys will get the final 7 games of the week. I'll go through every single player on every single team and just go through which players I'd be looking to start this week. So stay tuned for that video. That one will come out on Friday as well. This video is also probably going to come out Thursday night. So I'll get 2 videos here pretty quick, but stay tuned for that one. As always, if you guys have any specific questions for me, let me know in the comments below. I love interacting with you guys there. And good luck on the trade market this week. Let's go get some wins, and I will catch you guys with the start sit video, and then on Monday with some waivers. So good luck, guys. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.